remarkable. The number 7 and the number wisdom takes on cosmological significance, which of course the later Zoharic Jews always proposed and pursued this analogy of as above, so below. I mean, this is the ancient Egyptian Hermetic main principle found in the Tabula Smaragdina, the Emerald Tablet of alchemical fame, as above, so below. Well, Gershom Scholem, in The Mystical Shape of the Godhead, in his analysis of the basic concepts of the Kabbalah, this is published by Schocken Books. The English translation is 1991, which I have. On page 183, when the Zohar speaks of the Shekinah as feminine, it quite frequently uses the term Alma de Nukva, the world of the female. But the author of the Zohar goes even further. Of course, for him, as for other Kabbalists, the Shekinah is regarded as the celestial Dana, the Ha-Isha Ha-Eliona, or the woman of light, the Itete de Nehora, in whose mystery are rooted all the females in the earthly world. In brief, she is the eternal feminine. Joseph Gikatila puts it in similar terms. The Shekinah in Abraham's time was called Sarah, in Isaac's time, Rebekah, and in Jacob's time, Rachel. All of the hierarchies, the tikkunim of the Shekinah, are female, and most of necessity lack the male element represented in the Zohar by Joseph. But the feminine quality of the Shekinah is understood first and foremost and emphatically in her role as female partner in the sacred union, the Zevuga Kadisha, whereby the unity of the divine potencies is realized through the union of male and female. So this is a very interesting aspect of the wisdom, the discussion of the wisdom, in the ancient traditions. Now, Dale N. Robertson, The Biblical Ciphers Unsealed, a revival of the Hebrew goddess, Paragon House, this is published 2001. On page 17, he notes briefly the Hebrew Chokhmah, or wisdom, was so much an attribute of the ancient goddess that it is personified in the texts and given a clear feminine personality. The student is to regard her as their darling, and she declares, "Those who love me, I love." He quotes Bernard Lang. Beautiful polytheistic texts about an Israelite goddess can be found in Proverbs chapters 1 through 9. The goddess was called Chokhmah, in English, wisdom or shrewdness, and it was only later taken to be a simple poetic personification of school wisdom or of God's own wisdom. But to take Proverbs 8:22-30 as referring to the wisdom of the only God is contrary to sound textual analysis, as was observed by the Hispano-Arabic Muslim polemicist Ibn Hazm in the 11th century. And he is right, for wisdom is the goddess of school and instruction, or more precisely, the divine patroness of scribal education and training. This is remarkably interesting in light of the fact that the Nephites persistently kept their records, and they passed those records on from father to son, did they not? Yes. And they instructed them in the language of their fathers, the learning of the Jews, and the language of the Egyptians. That's beautiful. Beautiful fit. Now, Manly P. Hall. I know I'm going somewhat fast, but there's a lot of material to cover here. His wonderful encyclopedic tome, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, I have the Reader's Edition. I had a chance to buy the actual Artistic Scholars Edition, and my heavens, the thing's blasted expensive. But so I cheapened out and bought the first paperback edition. This is 2003. On page 219, discussing the number 7 from the Pythagorean element. Now, see, these are the ancient peoples in the Aegean area. The ancient Pythagoreans, the heptad, the number 7, was called, quote, worthy of veneration, unquote. It was held to be the number of religion. Interesting. Because man is controlled by 7 celestial spirits to whom it is proper for him to make offerings. It was called the number of life. Interesting. Because it was believed that human creatures born in the 7th month of embryonic life usually lived. One author called it the motherless virgin, Minerva, because it was not born of a mother, but out of the crown, or the head of the father, the monad. Key words of the heptad are fortune, occasion, custody, control, government, judgment, dreams, voices, sounds, and that which leads all things to their end. The Elohim of the Jews were supposedly 7 in number. They were the spirits of the dawn, more commonly known as the archangels controlling the planets. The 7 archangels, with the 3 spirits controlling the sun in its threefold aspect, constitute the 10, the sacred Pythagorean decad. Interesting background, more for the background there. Now, this number 7 is remarkably pictured in the symbolisms of the tarot cards. Very interesting. Now, Joseph Campbell, the great world-renowned mythologist, and Richard Roberts, in the book Tarot Revelations, discussing the symbolisms of the tarot cards in 1987, this was the Vernal Equinox Press, they show the tarot card of the charioteer. Very interesting here. 3 is the number of the celestial, or the heavenly realm. They say this on page 76. In the words of Sir Lot, hence 7 is the number of expressing the sum of heaven and earth. 3 for heaven and number 4 for earth. That equals 7. With its characteristic quality of synthesis, is regarded as a symbol of the transformation and integration of all hierarchical orders as a whole. Hence there are 7 notes in the diatonic scale, 7 colors in the rainbow, 7 planetary spheres together with their 7 planets. 7 is represented graphically by the joining of the triangle and the square, the triangle being either superimposed upon or inscribed within the square. This combination of the 3 and the 4 is depicted graphically in key 7 of the tarot card, the charioteer, by the triangular form of the charioteer's body within the square of the starry canopy and the solid square base of the chariot proper, the meaning of which is the interpenetration of the heavenly and the mundane, or spirit infusing matter. Pointing upwards, such a triangle represents aspiration towards the spiritual, and alchemically symbolizes fire, or the aspiring fiery spirit of man desirous of reunion with its source. And he shows the photograph on page 77, a very, very interesting drawing. So even the medieval tarot symbolisms, showing the interpenetration of spirit and matter, discussing the aspect of the number 7 with wisdom, with control, with man's aspiration to the higher good. I mean, this is a beautiful depiction of the tarot card symbolism. Paul Foster Case, one of the true tarot geniuses of Boda fame, copyright 1990, his book, The Tarot, The Key to the Wisdom of the Ages. Page 155, he's discussing the key number 14, which equals 7 times 2, incidentally. The Temperance card. It says on page 155, at the upper end of the path in this card is a crown. It signifies attainment, mastery, and like ideas. It also has a reference to the esoteric meaning of the number 1, which Kabbalists call the crown. The end of the path of attainment is the realization of the crown of perfect union with the primal will. The twin peaks on either side of the path in this card under the crown are wisdom, the second sephirah on the Kabbalistic tree of life, and understanding, which is the third sephiroth in the upper triangular triad of the Kabbalah tree of life. On the top of page 156, he says, the angel is Michael, the archangel of fire, the angel of the sun, and ruler of the south. Michael is also specifically connected with Tiferet on the tree of life. The solar symbol on his head establishes his identity, as does his yellow hair and the rays streaming from it. The fact that Sagittarius is a fiery sign carries the correspondence still further. So do the fiery wings of the angel. His white robe represents purity and wisdom. At the neck are written in Hebrew characters the letters of the Tetragrammaton, IHVH. You notice how all this symbolism comes together so beautifully in